Boom, baby, we're live. Welcome to Tokyo Crypto Show, Season 2, Episode 137, where we're going to be talking to you guys about what is an ETF. We've got the whole team here, okay? And we're going to be talking about what an ETF is, because this is now a huge component in what is going to be happening with the Bitcoin price. Because remember, what we tell you guys to do is monitor the price of Bitcoin, monitor the health of the market, and then everything else is relatively second best, because if Bitcoin dies, everything dies. We're actually kind of at a crucial point right now. Alex was talking to us before the stream got going here. So we're going to be talking to you guys about a bunch today. And welcome. How's everybody doing? Good morning from Asia. We got the international team here. I think it's morning for me, James, Steve, and Alex. And Adam, it's nighttime for you, right?
Yeah, 9 o'clock here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. So how's everybody doing?
Pretty fabulous, really.
Good.
Solid.
Good. So let's talk about what's going on here in the market in general. What's your guys' sentiment overall right now before we get going? How are you guys feeling about the market? James, let's start with you. Let's go around.
I think we're still in that choppy consolidating action here. And we made a new low or new relative low here a few days ago at around $53,000 for Bitcoin. And I think it's going to just kind of bounce between 55 to 70 until probably September, October. So, we might get a couple more pullbacks after jump up to around 70. Then we might get maybe one or two more buying opportunities. I don't know if we will go down all the way down to 53, but I still see a choppy movement until September, October.
Interesting. Adam, where are we at? You're deep in the trenches of cryptocurrency. You probably read like 9,000 telegram messages a day. What's going on your end?
Well, people seem to forget that Bitcoin usually isn't this high by this early in the cycle. Like usually a couple of months after the halving, we are still under the previous all-time high. This is the first time that we are over it, thanks to the ETF mainly. So yeah, if we continue chopping sideways for a while, it's actually better because it lines up better with the 4-year cycles. So it gives a better chance of everything going nuts next year. And that's what we want, really, because that brings us more potential. Honestly, I think similar to James, but I would tighten the range. I don't think we will touch 70K until like October, maybe November. Like
where are you getting this from? Are these people within your group or no?
What?
I mean, where are you getting this from? The whole, we're not going there until September-ish. Where are you getting this data from? Where are you getting your conclusions from?
So historically, if you look at every year Bitcoin's been live, there are some months that tend to be positive and some months that tend to be negative. The most infamous month, I would say, is September. September is always a red month. For some reason, it has never been a green month for Bitcoin. But other months like October through December tend to be green months because going into the end of the year, Christmas season and everything, people tend to be more optimistic about markets and try to get some quick money for Christmas. So that's when you usually see some price action. So that coupled with some experience, I would say, that's why what I'm going off. Of course, I'm also looking at the charts to corroborate what I'm saying, but yeah, I definitely see some more chopping, potentially a bigger dip in December. I think we could see 50 if December decides to go really hard. Also depends where we are in the chop by the time we get into September, sorry. But yeah, like probably 50 is the lowest we see. And for those who don't know, when saying prices like this, I don't mean 50,000 exactly, but around that range. It could go to 49, 48, but that's the level we're looking for. That's the ideal buyer opportunity now, because I don't think we're going lower than that, especially if you factor in mining prices.
Mm-hmm.
Elias will be good to answer this question, but I think the cost of production of one Bitcoin right now is around 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's you can always use the cost of production as a hard barrier under which the price usually won't go because the miners are not going to sell at a loss.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's true. That's super true. Interesting. There's a lot of sentiment on crypto Twitter. People are like, "Oh my god, it's so." Oh, my bad. There's a lot of sentiment on crypto Twitter that's like, "Oh my god, the bull market's over. The bull market's over." Uh, okay, real quick, I want to just get some stock market sentiment from Steve. Just Steve, what do you think? What's your overall sentiment of things? Do you think things are gonna crash? We're going up. We're going down. I mean, one of my friends, he's involved in TradFi too, and he hit me up yesterday, and he's like, "My Tesla stock is just ripping," and I just think like, and James backed me up on this, but I just think moving into the election, the last thing that the Democratic Party can have is the stock market crashing. On top of that, right? Are they pumping this market up with funny money, or what's going on?
I think so. I think one of the things is that one of the one of the worst things that market can have is uncertainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things market is seeing now with the Biden's debate performance, I think market is pricing in that Trump might win this election, right? Unless Biden drops out and they replace it with somebody else. And based on what we are hearing, Biden's dug in. He said he's not quitting until he loses the election. So I think that's what the market's expecting is that hey, Trump's going to win and he's going to bring in more liquidity and possibly bring the inflation and unemployment under control. So I think markets pricing in that November win as well as the brighter 2025 going forward. What do you think, Steve?
You think it's priced in?
I mean, I would think so because it was going sideways, choppy for a while, right? Remember, markets are always forward-looking, so it prices in it bakes in the expectation from the future.
Personally, I think that we could still be set for a bit of a choppy summer. As I mentioned last episode, oil demand's still going to be high from summer driving that goes on, and that has been a support for oil. However, I still expect that to fall, same position as before in the fall to winter period. With that easing of inflation. When oil prices actually fell back in May precipitously, that was the first really good report on inflation that the Federal Reserve was really properly happy with. In terms of achieving the trajectory that they want for interest rate cuts. The only thing that's now offsetting that, in my view, would be these increased prices. However, that should be set to fall in the fall to winter period. One small worry that I do have is there's this one piece of information called the CME Watch tool. And it pretty much compiles all of the sort of statements and briefings given from the Federal Reserve. And it's saying that there's a 75% chance that the Federal Reserve will cut in September. This, to me, I think is a little bit aggressive. And if the market, as James B. mentioned, is pricing in a 75% expectation of a rate cut in September, that's a little scary to me because if I'm expecting all the inflation reports throughout the summer to come in hot. I don't think that the Federal Reserve will suddenly see one good report in September to decide to cut right then and there. So we could see a little bit of choppy action in September as well, but I still would reiterate a bullish position at the latest by winter. We should be seeing good price activity.
James, does that check out or is he just making things up?
I mean, Jerome Powell was pretty adamant that he's not looking to cut this year, right? That's his stance, and I guess he's maintaining that stance. Does that mean that he might turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? We might just do a cut in September"? No, he can do that, obviously, but again, he was very adamant about he's not looking to cut anytime soon. But we got to always keep in mind that the interest rate cut is one of many tools in Fed's pullback to provide liquidity to the market, they can always use the Treasury or the Federal Reserve balance sheet to move the liquidity in and out of the market. So if not cutting the interest rate, they can use their the liquidity line or the available liquidity from their balance sheet to move the liquidity into the market to pump it.
Interesting. We got a colorful comment here. This guy Robert just says ETF equals manipulation tool. You idiots. Thanks so much. I'm pretty sure they're going to manipulate the price all the way down. BlackRock is going to say, "Hey, gather around, investors. We're going to lose you guys money." And I hope everybody's on board for that. All right. So Alex, let's take a quick look at the health of Bitcoin actually from a chart perspective, and then you're a firm believer in the 4-year cycle. Just let us know whenever you're ready, and we'll screen share and get you rocking and rolling.
Beautiful. Well, just before then, I'd just like to say, James, I totally agree that Donald Trump's priced in. I think everyone's expecting his win. I think across the world, we've had elections in India, we've had elections now in UK, new governments are coming in. Everyone's just kind of sick of being sad, and I think that sets us up well for a nice change of pace. Even if that change of pace is unsustainable, and that the positive time doesn't last forever, I think we've got good things on the horizon. Now, Bitcoin, last week, big drop. The bull market thesis for the 4-year cycle has not been invalidated. It is still intact. So that was pretty cruisy, actually, for me last week. Personally, I actually bought some more. I did feel a bit of the sadness that goes through the market. Told me that it's probably a low, because when I get very excited about stuff and I'm checking the portfolio, that's always the time where I should have sold. And every time I'm really, really apprehensive about stuff, that's generally a good indicator that we've reached the bottom, or we're pretty much there. After we had the big drop last week, I woke up the next day and couldn't tell you why, but all of a sudden I felt very relaxed. And sure enough, everything was shooting back up. Bob Lucas released a video today for his private community that I'm involved with, stating that he believes the weekly cycle for Bitcoin, which is about goes for about 6 months. You sort of have 2 weekly cycles a year. The latest weekly cycle low has just been punched in. If there was to be a lower one, he says that would be constrained within the next 5 days. So anything beyond that, he is assuming that a close above the 10-day moving average, or no new lows in the next 5 days, we can just assume weekly cycles in and that low will not be breached. And if it is breached, then that means there are bigger factors at play. That means that we're probably going into recessions across the entire industry here, as well as many other industries. So you might as well be bullish. So that's very good. I'll quickly share the screen.
May I ask you a question? Because that was a really great breakdown you just gave us there. So for the guys at home, because we want to make sure that everybody, really walks away with something per episode. What is the price that you're looking at that if Bitcoin goes below, it is not a cycle low, it is kind of a bearish signal that, okay, look, we're basically heading into, another bear market?
Beautiful. Well, originally, before last week, the price was $49,700. That was $50,000, and then minus what in my trading I term a point, and so I've got a point is $100 for Bitcoin. So if it closes 3 points below $50,000, I'd be going, ooh, that's probably all over, Rover. And from there, I wouldn't sell out immediately, because usually the price will drop and then it'll come back up for a reaction, and that's when I would get out. Now, we've punched in a low last week, and so, as I said, if we don't get another one in the next 5 days, as far as Bob's concerned at the very least, this is it, the low that we've got. I've just hit share screen.
Okay, here we go.
To bring that up.
Thank
so
you.
Here's just a daily chart of Bitcoin. Don't mind the lines too much. The main thing here is this low at 53,550. So we don't want to see below that now. Now, if we do, then it's got to be the next 5 days. And then from there, we don't want to see a close below that second. So for now,
the colors are kind of coming. Sorry, Alex, the colors are kind of coming in a little light. It's hard to see the red and green.
Okay, cool.
If you can, I don't know if there's something you can adjust.
Like this, do this, and drag us in a bit closer.
There we
Yeah.
go. That's way better. That's clear as day.
So we've got the low here last week, 5th of July, 53,550. So I would be taking off 50, so 53.5, and then taking off another $300. So a close below 53,200, then I would be thinking this might be it. That said, though, if that was
daily close,
it would just the week.
Okay.
Always the week.
So weekly close below 53,500 is danger.
53,200.
53,200.
Now, if that was to happen this week, that's okay because we've got that sort of 5-day grace period we're giving it. But after that, we're just way too far through like a weekly cycle in order for that to occur. Because you'll either have a low based on price or based on time. And so we've had low based on price. We've had a nice sort of 27% I mean, from here, let's have a look. 27.48% drop. Beautiful. And so we've had a price low, and it's also come in right in the timing band for a time-based low. So it would tell us that there is a very high likelihood that this is indeed the low. Yeah. So this is the number we want to stay above. So now, as everyone said, we can speculate, is it going to go sideways? Is it going to fly up? I think Adam made a good point that the original expectation we had for Bitcoin, if it was to just follow all of the other 4-year cycles as it usually has, we wouldn't expect a new all-time high until November this year anyways. So we've already done that. So now price has to sort of chill out because it's gone a bit far. So we need to take some time. So I couldn't tell you if we're going to fly up next month or if we're going to chop sideways, but I'm of the mind that it's going to go up. We've got positive times ahead. So if your time horizon, if you extend that out into next year, then ultra bullish, ultra super bullish. Yes. I've got a quick point here for people in Australia. We've got like our kind of, our stock market, the ASX 200.
Okay.
And just super quick for that, because a lot of people in Australia, we've just come out of the 2 coldest weeks of the year, the 2 darkest weeks of the year. Everyone's been very sad. And we've had lots of companies going bankrupt and all sorts of issues here.
Jesus,
However,
that's a giant jump at the beginning there.
Yeah, our stock market is literally at the all-time high prices right now. We've hit it once, twice, 3 times. And as I've told you before, John, like I'm a big believer in, if on the weekly we hit the same point 4 times, it's going through. So we might get a follow through now. Otherwise, it'll keep getting higher and tighter. You see, we've got consistent higher bottoms. And so there is just this energy building up, and it looks like it wants to resolve to the upside. If it was to resolve to the downside, then Australia, welcome to recession land. I believe that is on the cards for later in the decade, but for now, it looks like now's the time for, asset prices just to kind of head on up. So positive times as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Steve, do you see anything like that in TradFi markets comparably?
I don't follow the ASX. However, if you want,
just with American markets and just sentiment in general, go ahead.
Sure. One more sort of piece of info that I think shows for a really good bullish sign in the stock market is more recently the 10-year bond yield has been closing lower and lower. The lower that 10-year yield closes, the less pressure that's going to be put on stocks. If you see yields back in 2022, they spike up higher. That, of course, would weigh heavier on the stock market. With it now being down to, I think right now, 4.2, this is a really good sign. And this is also another reason why I think the stock market still remains healthy. If you want another indicator, generally the less action and volatility that there is on the VIX, the VIX has been showing a lot less activity within the past couple of months. This is also good because this means that people are choosing to hold their positions. Also means that they have confidence in the market, because when the VIX goes higher, that means that more people are buying, more people are selling, more volume is going on, which means that people are constantly trying to readjust their picks. They don't know what to hold. They don't know where they want to put their money, and that of course would be bearish. However, with the VIX being as low as it is, this is another good indicator that I think we are set for good times. I'm just expecting a rough summer and maybe a rough fall as well. Winter would certainly still be strong.
Yeah, it's been a cruel summer so far. I've been calling James and crying every other day, but offline. But I got my big boy pants on here for the show. Yeah, the sentiment and everything was just totally insane from like, I would say like February to like April-ish. It was insane. It was insane. And then now we've just kind of been bleeding out. And yeah, it's just I don't know. It kind of reminds me to a degree of 2021 when we had that rip up in March, right? I think it was March that hit the all-time high in 2021. Was it March, Adam? Do you know the exact date? Remember when we first had that first 60K hit, and then from March to April, May, June, July, it was just shit until November when we had that second one, which was arguably artificial, and then after that it was game over.
It was late February, almost March.
Oh yeah, what was it? Do you have the exact date?
Yeah, we breached 60K on February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
We got to 63,000 on the week, and then we continued to go up, and the peak of 74K, according to my chart, was on March 14th.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's the day I was looking for, March 14th. That's right. Good stuff, man. Yeah, what good times. So it just seems, the last thing is because, when you're in a bull market too, I'm just going to talk like, regular person talk now. Like when you're in a bull market, to a degree, there's a degree of delusion everybody certainly shares. So I just want to make sure that we're mathematically backing everything up. And that's why I like to have as many opinions as possible too, from charting, from TradFi, from deep tech to, experiences in the industry like James. But yeah, the sentiment is bad. I think Ansem was hacked yesterday too. He's like a huge Solana influencer. His main account was hacked. And there just seems to be a lot of like influencers just taking money behind the scenes to promote coins. Wendy O was caught on a list, and there's a bunch of different people there. But that's why we're just doing what we're doing and really trying to just put our best foot forward mathematically, just to kind of show, this, like, from not hopium, any of that shit, but just like straight up from a perspective of understanding what's going on in the market mathematically. Next week we're actually doing an episode presenting you guys a bunch of tools to show you to use at home to kind of like fact check content creators and stuff. Like recently we heard a content creator saying Solana is going to go to $4,000, and if you just quickly ran the math on that, you're like, oh wait, so Solana would need to be $1.5 trillion for it to be $4,000 per Solana, and that's assuming they don't engineer any more coins. And that price happened right now. So there's so many people out there full of shit, and we're just going to show you guys how to really develop a good bullshit detector. Today's episode is going to be talking about what is an ETF. So James and Steven, I think you guys have the most experience in regards to kind of knowing what an ETF is. James, you put together this presentation. We're just going to give you guys real quick because you have to know exactly what an ETF is, because the Bitcoin ETF, what it basically is, it's an exchange traded fund. And this basically granted legitimacy to Bitcoin, because now you have Wall Street and these huge investment firms like BlackRock and whatnot, acquiring tons and tons and tons of Bitcoin. Real quick, before we jump into this, because I'm going to pass it off to you, James. Okay, it's full conspiracy. All right. How many of you guys think that they're crashing the price right now because the Ethereum ETF is about to hit the streets and they want cheaper Ethereum to get out? Anyone?
Well, I think that makes sense. I would say if we're just looking at, the cycle perspective of something, we have a weekly cycle low, so a low was coming. So whatever causes it, we sort of attribute after the fact, because it's a cycle, it's probably going to happen anyways. So if they weren't dumping for an Ethereum ETF, all that means is the price may not have gone as low, but a low was to be expected anyways. It makes sense that they would. I know I would. So, don't get shaken out, basically. Until the thesis isn't validated, don't get shaken out.
Go, James.
When these big money is trying to accumulate a position before drive the price up really high, they don't just buy a whole bag at one price or one time, right? Because that would make the price go against itself. So you're going to end up driving price up just by your volume alone. So what they will do is they will map out the price saying, hey, we need to accumulate Ethereum between 2,500 to $3,000, and they will start buying gradually at 2,500. And once it hits 3,000, they will back off and pause, right? And see what happens. If $3,000 keeps going up, or the price keeps going up after $3,000, they will actually turn around and sell to drive the price back down into the range, right? And see if it'll go back down to 2,500, and they can start accumulating. So if we are seeing the price going sideways with a lower volume like this, it's something's going on. Somebody's either accumulating or distributing, right? So the question becomes, okay, which is it? So, and our macro assumption and the sentiment used to be that we're still in the crypto spring, transitioning into summer. So it'll be more bull market late this year, earlier next year. So we're assuming this is a accumulation, right? So the big money is moving the price within certain range to, establish a big position before start driving the prices up.
I see. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. We're going to take a look at your presentation here because we got a pretty decent one set up for you guys. Okay. And this is just like the general basics of the exchange traded fund, the ETF. So James, did you want to go ahead and let me see if I could, can I switch this out 1 second? Let's see if I can. No, I guess I can't. Okay. All right, James, just let me know when you're ready, brother. I'll go through for you. Oh, you're muted there, pal.
Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So this is a pretty basic kind of information on what ETF or exchange traded funds are. So exchange traded fund is almost like a hybrid between a individual stock purchase and the mutual fund, right? All the people that buys into ETF, the money gets pooled, and ETF takes that pool of money and goes out and buys the either commodity or stock or whatever security that is set to do. ETFs tend to track whatever the underlying asset it is based on. First ETF that was that started was for S&P 500, and which tracks a S&P 500 index. ETF is registered and screened by the Security Exchange Commission or SEC, and ETF are set up to be typically open-ended, which means there's no max amount of money that can come in. So they can people can continue to buy into it, and once people put their money in, the operator would take the money and go out and purchase more security. That's based on. Okay. One of the big advantage of ETF versus mutual funds, especially closed-ended mutual fund, is it offers really low expense ratio for the individual investors, right? So instead of getting charged 1 or 2%, you get charged on the basis of basis point, which is 1/100th of 1%. A total exchange or ETF globally is around $10 trillion USD, obviously. And there's about 9,000 ETFs operating worldwide, and the biggest one is the S&P 500 ETF, or the Spider, which has around $360 billion of asset under management.
Wow. Next one.
Yes, please.
This is really important because this was the gold ETF came out 2004, and this is what people were kind of expecting with Bitcoin. And honestly, we've only been in with this ETF situation less than 6 months, not even a full 6 months yet, and people have already made life-changing money.
Yep. So just like John said, this is a bit of information on the gold ETF. It came out in November 2004. One of the big advantage of it is instead of you physically owning gold, which requires your security, storage, and all the associated expenses with it, you can just go ahead and buy this thing. I think it's called the GLD, using your brokerage account, and you can own gold, or shares of gold, right? Paper shares. Some ETFs focus on physical gold. Some ETF focus on the futures of gold, right? Gold futures. So you got to kind of read into the prospectus or the information behind the funds to see which is which. Two charts underneath it. One on the left is, as you can see, that's gold prices with when the ETF came online. And see, you can see the dotted line in the center there.
Yeah,
that's around 2005, because again, November 2004, right? So as you can see, when the ETF came online, the gold price skyrocketed.
Is this a weekly chart?
Yeah.
It's monthly?
It's monthly.
Okay. Per month. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
One on the right is a little bit more long-term view. This is looking at two different things here. This is a spot gold price, which is the blue line, versus where is that? Okay, the orange line or the yellow line is a total gold ETF money under management. As you can see, it's pretty well correlated. As the money flew into the gold ETFs, the gold spot prices kept going up and up until around 2011, when people start cashing out.
7-year run, though.
Yeah, pretty good though, right? I mean,
Not
it
bad.
went from around $600 all the way up to $1,800, tripled.
It almost looks. I mean, do you have a ETF, a monthly chart available? Because this almost kind of looks similar to what happened with Bitcoin, with its ETF. Obviously, it's
we're like very beginning of it, right? We're not even 1 year in, and we're what are we, like 6 months in?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Next one, please.
Okay.
Okay, this is some information on the Bitcoin spot ETF. Remember, there are two different things we have currently. There's a spot ETF and futures ETF. What just got approved is a spot ETF, right? Which actually owns a Bitcoin, quote unquote, physical Bitcoin under its fund through this custodial service, typically Coinbase, I think. Okay. Bitcoin futures ETF, it owns Bitcoin futures, which is a derivative, not a the pure form Bitcoin. It's a paper Bitcoin, actually. One of the big advantages of spot Bitcoin ETF is that you do not have to worry about the self custody using either your wallet hardware or browser hot wallet or cold wallet,
right,
or any of that stuff. So you can just buy the shares of it, and the BlackRock, in partnership with its custodial service provider, Coinbase, I think, they would, take care of all the storage and the wallet requirements. Some Bitcoin ETFs have a little bit more higher expenses than others. I think the two of the lowest funds or lowest expense Bitcoin spot ETFs are BlackRock and Fidelity currently.
Mm.
Comments, questions?
No, it's looking good, but it's kind of funny though, because as TradFi and Bitcoin kind of meet each other, it's like kind of the antithesis of crypto to like, hand over custodian, hand over your wallet.
Yeah, that's kind of funny thing, right? It's crypto was originally visioned as this decentralized money for the people, right? So
Yep.
no central authority controls it. But Bitcoin spot ETF kind of brought that almost full circle, or totally opposite. Because now BlackRock and all these big money controls and holds the Bitcoin, and you get a paper claim to a Bitcoin. Again, it's all regulated by SEC, so it's kind of almost defeats your purpose if you think about it.
Yeah,
but it makes it easier though.
It's a necessary evil to onboard more liquidity though, correct?
Yep. Sure is.
Interesting. All right, should we go to the next page here?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go back.
Next page here. Okay. One of the things is that IBIT, or the BlackRock Bitcoin spot ETF, now accounts for over half of BlackRock's net inflow out of their all 420 ETFs they run. That is crazy, right? And Fidelity is almost doing the same. And this was in March, according to Forbes magazine. There are three charts underneath this. First chart on the left is a funds flow by date for Bitcoin ETFs. As you can see, if it's above zero line, it means funds flew in. If it's below zero line, it means the money went out of the funds, right? And as you can see, most of the February and March was positive funds flow, so money flew into Bitcoin ETFs. April and May were a little bit choppy, and we had some negative outflow days. Then we had pretty positive May. Then we start seeing some outflow in June, July, and now we're back in July, and we're start seeing net inflow again.
Yeah. That initial inflow was crazy from right here to like, I would say, like the peak. And what's funny is how Adam mentioned earlier how the Bitcoin all-time high was March 14th on 2021. That was this date too. This date right here was March 14th.
Remember, one of the things we don't see here is the OTC funds flow, right? Remember that this is mostly the exchange-based data. So it almost seems like, again, conspiracy theory-wise, they knew that after the halving in April, the miners would have to sell their Bitcoin bag to upgrade their equipment or pay for their equipment if it should be ordered, right? And to cover their overhead. So it almost seems like they stopped buying before April, then they went OTC to start buying from miners instead of the exchanges until the miners pretty much empty their bags, right? Okay, the chart in the middle is a cumulative funds flow for different Bitcoin ETFs. As you can see on the top, again, above zero is positive funds flow, means money flew in to Bitcoin ETFs. If it's below, money went out. And as you can see, the negative funds flow out was all Grayscale. Grayscale started dumping its bag,
and I think we should really quickly highlight that because, okay, so you guys know Grayscale accumulated a bunch of Bitcoin and a bunch of Ethereum a couple years ago, and they're in a little bit of financial trouble. So when the ETF hit the market, if you look at the initial days, because I believe the ETF was approved on January 10th, and then if you look at the outflows, Grayscale started liquidating and selling all of their Bitcoin. But what they don't talk about, which if you look at the data, it's almost a perfect correlation between Grayscale And so this black is grayscale, right? Or excuse me, this gray down here is grayscale, and then this black is BlackRock.
Yep.
It's almost synonymous with each other. As grayscale was dumping off, all BlackRock was doing was just accumulating at this rate.
Yep.
And number two, I believe, was it number two is Fidelity? Is Fidelity number two in the acquisitions?
Yep.
They are, right? Yeah, that's right.
So you see that little inside the black area that you see the neon green line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the net funds flow. So even with all the grayscale dumping, net funds flow was positive, which actually you can see on the third chart here on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important, or what impacts Bitcoin price, is not the amount of money coming in, but the change of amount of money coming in, right? So as you can see the slope of the chart on the right, from February to March, we saw huge funds flow, right? As you see this steep climb. Then April and May, it kind of chopped sideways, which means the funds flow was kind of net zero, right? And as you can see from actually on the first chart on the right, then as we saw July or June, we had a little bit of positive funds flow. Then we had a negative dipping into July, and now we're start climbing back up again. So on the right, what you got to look at is not the numbers, but the slope of the line. If you guys remember back to your high school algebra.
So, but like I said, despite Grayscale making the dump offs, like the total net inflow was positive, and that's with Grayscale literally selling, like, over the course since the ETF has launched until now. I think Grayscale has sold close to 200,000 actual.
Yeah, and remember, we got to factor in the miners too, which we don't see here.
Good stuff.
Now, what is the German government and U.S. government is dumping now? So who knows?
All right. But that, I think that is that wrap it up there. This is the last slide.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So I know, like, it just I know this is like not the most, like, dopamine centered episode, but I just think it's so important that you guys understand that this is where a lot of the market movement is coming from, these ETFs. And it's a very simple cheat code. If you can, because you can publicly track the inflows and outflows every day on Twitter. Like, you can literally watch, are they selling? Are they buying? What's going on? One of the Twitter accounts that I like to use, I'll just pull it up real quick. It's like a tool for you guys to track. It's public information. It's right here. It's HODL, HODL 15 capital. Okay. And then you can watch, like, here are the name of these are the inflows. So the name of the Bitcoin ETF for BlackRock is called iShares. Okay. iShares. So you need to be keeping an eye on that. And then number two is the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin. And then Grayscale, keep an eye on them because they have a bunch of Ethereum. They are probably going to tank the price as well. As you can see here, look, at the beginning on January 10th, I was correct. January 10th is when the ETF went into being live. And then they had 619,000 Bitcoin, and they dumped off. So they dumped off almost 200,000 in 21 days. And then they could strategically been dumping it off. And to this point now, they're having 277,000. But then if you look at BlackRock across the top, BlackRock is just accumulating. Like, not a single month goes by that they don't really accumulate. This is a slow month, but that's when everything in the market was shit in the bed. But they are slowly but surely accumulating. Fidelity is number two. You can see them. Fidelity and BlackRock and Grayscale, if you look at the inflows and you track the selling versus the buying, it's like they're definitely working together, all three of them. They're strategically working together to hand off the Bitcoin to each other, to balance off their balance sheets, wherever the case may be. So yeah, and then more of these ETFs are going to be coming. These are just the United States ETFs, and then you can see other ETFs here around the world. We have Canada, Germany, Sweden. The list goes on and on and on. So this ETF thing is a brand new tool to add into your cryptocurrency database. And watching these outflows really is something that's just like I said, when we're leaning towards trusting things with the math, just trusting the math of it all, and understanding like what exactly is happening, that's like where the basis of Tokyo Crypto Show Season 2 is like it's just pure math. We want to minimize speculation as much as possible. That way, when we're making decisions in regarding to our investment, we're just not making them from an emotional standpoint, nothing hopium, anything like that. My personal thesis is, looking at just the election, looking at the state of President Biden, looking at the state of American relations under his presidency, it's been just a disaster. The economy is a disaster. Prices are high. Civil unrest is high. Gas is high. I mean, everything. This guy is clearly not in control of the country. If you think this guy is control of the country, you're out of your fucking mind. You're a moron, quite frankly. I just think, it's going to be good to have, if Trump gets back in office, he's been talking about everything. He's been saying, hey, you know what? We're going to cut the rates no matter what. He wants to fire Jerome Powell. He wants to just get out there and make things happen. And this is big news. Somebody in the chat mentioned this earlier too, in regards to that. So this is directly related to cryptocurrency, but Trump is to speak at the 2024 Bitcoin conference in Nashville. This is the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. This is the first time a president or a presidential candidate has ever even taken to the stage to be pro-Bitcoin. Most of the people, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden and his administration recently just struck down a bill that went through that was pro-crypto. But Trump honestly sees like, somebody's been in his ear, and it probably has been Vivek, honestly, but he's going to be speaking at this conference in about 2 weeks. He's going to be, I don't know the exact date, but the dates of the program are 2 weeks away, July 25th to 27th. So he's going to be speaking there. That's going to be huge because have we ever seen a presidential candidate or former president actually endorsing Bitcoin? I know during his presidency, he was actually bad mouthing Bitcoin because, he has to be a good little minion.
Not in U.S. obviously. Not in U.S.
Well, I mean, my thesis is keep an eye on the election, barring some cheating or scamming of the election like they did in 2020. Trump's definitely going to win. And then I just think we're going to have like a competent businessman in the office of, the most powerful office on the planet right now, quite frankly. I think the world's kind of waiting for this guy to come back. I mean, I know down there, I'm a big fan of Sky News, Alex. I don't know if you watch Sky News, but they're constantly trashing fucking Biden all the time.
Yes. Oh god.
That's a news channel down there in Australia, and they just consistently pick apart the wokeness, pick apart all the garbage, So that being said, I just think keeping an eye on the ETFs is a real important thing. Follow that channel that we just sent you, that that Twitter channel. You can see the inflows and outflows. So interesting for you guys. Yeah, my sentiment, to be honest, in wrapping up, my sentiment is kind of in the middle. I do get a little bit emotional, not gonna lie. I have a desire to win, just put it that way. So, but it's good to know, like across the board, nobody just feels like despair and everything. And I've been hitting up people as well. I asked my buddy Lou, Crypto Elite and whatnot, about his perspective. It's all kind of seemed the same. It's just like, I think is this the first like 30% drawback we've seen this bull market?
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Good stuff. So, all right, guys, we'll be back here next week for us on the Tokyo Crypto Show Season 2. We hope that was a valuable episode for you. Let us know in the comments what you need to know. Let us know in the chat, whatever the case may be. And until then, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.